Nowadays, we're very used to managing everything on our phone. I mean, why wouldn't we? We can order anything from around the world and move money to any country with just a few clicks. You might be surprised to learn that underneath this convenience, global trade, the 30 trillion engine of the world's economy, is still being held hostage by a piece of paper. Hi, my name is Fiona and I'm from GSBN. Today, I want to tell you the story of how the shipping industry is finally starting to solve a problem that's been around for centuries, and why it took so long to even attempt it. Maritime trade has been around for centuries, long before the internet, long before electricity. And from the very beginning, merchants traveled with bundles of paperwork to prove what had been shipped, who would claim it, and to satisfy banks and customs authorities. What's remarkable is that we're still doing the same thing today. We've swapped wooden ships for container vessels, we've gone from wind to steam to diesel, but the documents, still paper, still couriered around the world. And buried in that stack of paper is one document that's proven almost impossible to digitize: the bill of lading.
Industry was set really far back into the Neanderthal paper world, where they're chasing per shipment 250 pieces of paper in order to get a cargo from A to B, right? That's one cargo out of the millions of cargoes that go around the world every year. And that was the problem they were trying to solve. And the focus on bills of lading was really that bills of lading are the golden nugget. They're the hardest part of digitizing trade because they're a complex legal paper document that's touched by so many people and has a considerable value attached to it. Definitely financial value, but also evidential and security linked to it.
So, companies are stuck with paper, not because they want to be, but because they don't have a choice. And what does that actually mean for us in the digital world we live in?
We were always under constant pressure to consolidate all the paper documents and move from our entity to our banks and to customer bank, finally to customer within a very, very short lead time. So that always keep us in terms of pressure, and also pressure always lead to mistakes. If something need to go wrong, it goes wrong terribly. Then during COVID time or seasonality, for example, Christmas or Chinese New Year, banks are closed and we always find it very difficult to really bring the documents quickly to the customer, and always there is a risk of document being lost.
To move beyond paper, the industry developed digital documents, especially electronic bills of lading, eBLs. But the global supply chain is a large, complex ecosystem with many participants. You have the carriers, you have the banks, corporates, customs authorities, and freight forwarders. So what's it gonna be? A solution to rule them all? Or a solution focused on one specific segment?
We historically or naturally has a very deep genes of carriers and then knows the shipping, knows the logistic industries very well. And most of our staff, they are not only technical guys, but they also domain experts. Our eBL is anchored with large carriers, and it's built on top of the carriers' flows and meeting carriers' needs, because we believe that the eBL carriers is the driving force to make it work. We kind of co-designed the whole eBL solutions along with our carrier partners.
IQAX built their solutions with carriers in mind. Others, like ICE CargoDocs, lean more towards banks and large cargo owners. Each platform developed its own strength, its own network. But here's the catch: an electronic bill of lading can only exist on one platform at a time. You can't just copy it and send it somewhere else. That would defeat the whole point. So, while it made sense for eBL providers to specialize, they also unwittingly created a new problem: walled gardens. This is making eBL adoption very, very difficult.
Lenzing, as a global BCO, we have to work with multiple global carriers. So each carrier have a own eBL platform. So that really pushing us to adopt a multiple eBL platform for us to work. The challenge here is we are currently using at least 3 to 4 different eBL platforms. So a customer, when get the goods from Lenzing, we cannot simply onboard them in 4 different platforms.
Digitization of those BS were enabled about a couple of decades back, if not more. But I think we've always had a challenge. You needed the buyer, the seller, the shipper, maybe a freight forwarder, and more to be all on the same ecosystem for it to work. And that itself, to me, is a massive limitation for digital trade to grow. So I think, to me, tech existed, solutions existed, but I think lack of scale given multiple standalone islands and ecosystems stood there, they could never scale.
We really try to keep it simple. One customer stick to one eBL platform and let them get the true value of the whole digital process. At some point of time, they are ready for complexity, then introduce second eBL platform. So that is so far the approach. It is not an easy option because the complexity is still going to be there, and more banks and customers need to be onboarded. Our teams also are really not very happy with having multiple eBL platform. They say I can insert the blank form of a different carrier, print, job is done. Ideally, limit to only one or two platform instead of 4 or 5. That is not the long-term solution, and we hear the user experience loud and clear, and that interoperability is the way forward. There is no other silver bullet for us to really make a differentiation going forward.
Prasan's teams isn't alone. Across the industry, the message is the same. Walled gardens are simply not sustainable. If eBL is going to scale, platforms need to talk to each other. That's where interoperability comes in. But why isn't this solved already? Isn't eBL data just like any other data? What makes this so hard?
In theory, shouldn't be too difficult because we move data from one system to the other all the time. And so interoperability is making sure that you can deliver across platforms in a way that is secure. It ensures that only one holder has control of that valuable document at any point in time, and so that only one holder has control of the goods, which can be hugely valuable, and that you do that in a way that preserves the legality of the instrument, so preserves the rights and obligations associated with a bill of lading at any point in time, and is insured by the P&I clubs, which are the 12 P&I clubs insure 90+% of the world fleet. And without that insurance, ships won't move. So whatever solution you put together for interoperability and for moving this bill of lading across platforms needs to have their blessing, in essence.
If we can solve for security, unicity, and legality, then we should be able to break the silos and connect everyone. But here's a question that I had to ask. Do solution providers even want interoperability? Isn't it against their best interest?
We view eBLs differently. It's not just a product and then try to drive maximum profitability. So therefore, we are very big on interoperability. And then you look at the interoperability partners, then, you got to look at the complementary skill sets and also complementary the ecosystems, right?
What we are looking to build here is a scalable solution that has the support of a broad set of customers that understand what we're trying to do and say, yes, if you put us on this journey, we will join you. And one of the critical things for us as we were engaging in this interoperable conversation was to find partners to do it with who had complementary networks. What we have found with IQAX and GSBN is those complementary networks that allow us to scale.
There it is, an alignment. Instead of seeing interoperability as a threat, they see it as an opportunity. The next step is to prove it can actually work. After months of work, in late 2025, we ran our first live pilot, a real transaction, not a simulation. An interoperable eBL transfer between ICE CargoDocs and IQAX eBL with Lenzing, HSBC, CZ Bank, and Dashen. The transaction began with New Golden Sea Shipping issuing the eBL to Lenzing Thailand on IQAX eBL. It was then transferred to HSBC Thailand. But here's the key moment. HSBC received it on ICE CargoDocs, not IQAX. The eBL had crossed platforms. From there, it was presented to CZ Bank and finally surrendered by Jiangsu Dashen back on IQAX eBL. And underneath the flow, we've also added a component called the Control Tracking Registry. A control tracking registry keeps track of which platform is in control of the electronic bill of lading. It ensures that there's no duplication, no scenario where two platforms both think that they have control of the document.
Here we're moving a really valuable asset. We're moving a bill of lading which has significant financial value and security around it from one platform to another. So we want to make sure that we don't lose it in transit, that it doesn't get stolen in transit. So that's where GSBN steps in and creates that security layer that makes sure, have we securely moved this digital asset from one place to another?
So that's building block one, the technology. But technology alone isn't enough. We also had to solve for legal and liability. Think of it this way. Each platform, each carrier operates under its own legal framework. So the question question becomes, does the bill of lading that leaves platform A still count as a valid bill of lading when it arrives on platform B?
For that, we've leveraged very heavily the implementations of the model law on electronic transfer of records, Melita. And so we work with carriers who issue bills of lading who are governed by laws which recognize that an electronic bill of lading is the equivalent to paper. So to ensure the legal part of this, so that the bill of lading remains valid, we leverage local laws that recognize eBLs. So that's block 2.
And then there's block 3, liability. Specifically, what happens if something goes wrong? Who's responsible? As a customer, do I need to understand the other platform security practices? Do I need to sue them if there is an incident?
We are all technology providers. We understand what being a technology provider means. We need to make certain promises to our customers about what we do with their data, how secure we keep it, what liability we will have to them if we fail to comply with the promises we've made to them. So as solution providers, we then need to be able to say to each other, we're doing a handshake here, right? We are trusting each other with our customers and our products. We know what we need to do. Here's what we need to do. We list it out. And then we say, if we fail to do that, this is how we're going to be liable. So those inter-platform liability agreements create that handshake you need to make sure that when I make a promise to my customer, I know that IQAX and GSBN are sitting behind their promises and we're all walking in lockstep together, right?
We have all 3 building blocks ready, but none of it matters if the customer experience is painful. So here's the real test. What did the users think?
But in the very initial pilot, only thing is we have to raise awareness that such a eBL interoperability is being worked out. But none of the stakeholders really felt the difference. For Lenzing team, it's very much like a standard eBL activity. We prepare the documentation, upload into eBL platform, transfer to our bank. So our bank receive in the same platform which they normally use it, and they transfer to customer bank, and customer still get the eBL in the same platform of Lenzing. So individuals never see what is happening behind the screen. That is the beauty of the interoperability. And absolutely the handshake was seamless and no hiccups anywhere. And there is a great example of how a solid technical solution can offer a seamless customer experience.
Why this is important for me is because if you go back to the solution or what we've had success on, solution between A and B, it is C which brings A and B together. And the same C now tomorrow can be used for C and D, E and F. And effectively, if all of them are linked by this solution which GSBN brings in, that effectively creates that big ecosystem which we've all been looking for. So to me, that neutral C of bringing 2 platforms together, which can be replicated and which effectively can create that one large ecosystem, is why, to me, this success is very different and very important.
Everybody agrees this live transaction is a significant achievement, but to me, it is still just the first step. There's still a lot of work ahead of us if we don't want this little piece of paper to hold us hostage ever again.
This year, the priority for DSI, and I think the priority for the whole industry, is let's overcome this fear that interoperability can't be done. Because we've got good examples. We've now got a few good methodologies for establishing how interoperability can be done. And so we need to encourage platforms and IT infrastructure to really open up and really seize that the market can grow for everyone.
So effectively, the way I see this coming to shape is this technology of bringing together interoperability between 2 platforms and patching them together. One is efficient, speed, and with a lot of consistency. And once that happens, I think see that being a core enabler to multiple other use cases well beyond LCs. I know we're just starting with letters of credit, but for HSBC, the objective as one of the leading trade banks is to make sure this digital ecosystem gets created. And we've been working on it, and hence this is a very strong success to call out.
Again, never was it our intention to do a one-off POC transaction. We always were looking to do things that would allow the industry to continue utilizing after they test. And that's exactly what's happening now, right? They've used it once and they are continuing to use it into 2026. So for us, that ability to then start to build out the networks, you take this transaction, it generates a little bit of interest. People start talking about it. Actually, maybe we should try that as well. And so what do we want to do this year? Build out that network, allow more people to experience what this is all about and say, you know what, it's time.
No more paper, no more paper.
Click and get paid.